So 5280 magazine is, I think, a great resource for anybody out there that's considering Denver or just wanting to learn more about the city. They have all kinds of cool different articles that they put out, but also every year they put out their top 25 neighborhoods. And on this top 25 neighborhoods, Wellshire has always consistently been in the top 10. And this last year, I think one of the reasons that really stood out to my clients and why they really identified Wellshire as a high, an area that was high on their list is for a few things, but for one, it was great for rentability. So this client that I had is a little bit different from the first. These people are basically investors and they were selling a property in their home state where they live, and it was a rental property, and by selling it, they wanted to come out and buy one or maybe even two rental properties with the proceeds they made from selling their house back in another state. It's called a 1031 exchange, and basically it's allowing an investor to take the proceeds of any home that they sell, and in a very short period of time, being able to identify a new home or homes that are also going to be the same style, meaning also an investment property, and be able to roll that money from selling their other home into these new ones and avoid paying any taxes on your capital gains. Basically, you can defer all of those taxes until someday when you eventually sell and don't do a 1031 exchange. So long-winded explanation, but I wanted just to clarify their reason for why they were searching for homes here in Denver. So since it's not a primary residence, it's an investment property and going to be turned into a long-term rental, their priorities and what their strategy was for what was the most important was a little bit different. So with them, what was really, really good on this 5280 magazine rankings with specifically Wellshire, they talked a lot in this ranking about not only just the great location that Wellshire has, but also how it has some of the highest rated schools, very low crime rates, and just a lot of other things that are very high on people's list of important factors when looking for a rental. So I'll let you guys do your own homework when it comes to some of those specifics like crime and school ratings. Definitely check out niche.com. That's a great resource that I always tell my friends and clients about. So check that out if you guys want to learn more about any part of Denver when it comes to those things. But what I love about Wellshire and why my clients also loved it is it's this little pocket of more of a suburban suburb style feel, yet it is right smack dab in a great location in Denver, surrounded by a lot more urban style areas. And specifically, Wellshire is just really, really close to Cherry Creek, as well as some other popular areas like Washington Park, Platt Park, even just going a little bit further to the north and to the east, places like Montclair, and just so many different areas that are also very popular that are surrounding this Wellshire specific neighborhood. When it came to schools, one of the most highly rated elementary schools in the entire city was also right here in this Wellshire neighborhood, so that was a huge selling point for my clients. And another thing that I think is so cool about Wellshire is it is a very small neighborhood when it comes to just number of homes that have sold there recently. When we did some of the metrics just to kind of really determine what were good KPIs or key performance indicators to really focus on when comparing different investment property potential, one thing that was really interesting was in Wellshire, the average or the median home price sold for the past year was super high. It was well over $1 million. And that was just because there was a very limited number of homes that had sold in Wellshire in that period of time. So at first glance, we kind of overlooked Wellshire because we thought it was out of their price range, when in fact, there were still some great options there. And my client that actually found this property, he's one of my favorite, also another one of my favorite clients. We had a ton of time together and just really learned a lot from him too, especially him and his wife, just from how very just in tune they were when it came to investment properties and just the strategy and just their mindset behind what's important when finding the next best rental property. So they just were very, very in tune with this kind of stuff, and I really enjoyed just learning a lot from them, which was a great little added bonus. So we found this home that was a little bit more of what we would sometimes call a value add or a fixer-upper. It wasn't in really bad shape by any means, but it just needed some TLC, needed some love. Little things like the lighting was very old and original, where my client actually went in and replaced all of the can lights in the entire main level with LEDs. brightened up the place. They added a bunch of additional lights, just fresh coat of paint, resanding all of the beautiful hardwood floors, just stuff that really isn't that labor intensive, or should I say it's not super expensive and stuff that's requiring permits and a lot of contractors to come in, but it made all the difference in the world. So what they were able to do was buy this property, spend about I think it was about 3 weeks, maybe a month of time where they came back out from out of state, came to Colorado and did some of this work themselves, just updating a few things, really just to make it as rentable as possible. It really wasn't listed that long before they were able to find renters, and again, I think this Wellshire neighborhood is just such a great option for a lot of different styles of living, whether it be a family or even just a couple or an individual. Really just every different type of person out there, I think, could find a lot of value and enjoyment out of living in Wellshire. One other thing that I'll share before we move on is, again, I'm a 40+ year Colorado native, and I really hadn't spent that much time in Wellshire. I knew where it was. I had kind of driven through the outskirts of this area, but I'd never really driven through any of these streets, these neighborhood streets in Wellshire. And man, I'll tell you what, it is definitely top, I'd say 5 places in all of Denver that I now continue to share and just recommend to other people that are considering Denver as their next home, because it really is a diamond in the rough. That's the only really best explanation I can think of to explain what makes Wellshire so special. Wellshire has such a cool, unique suburb feel, as I mentioned earlier, but around all this cool stuff. You can drive down to Cherry Creek Mall in probably 5 minutes, 7 minutes, really, really close, as well as just driving slightly to the west and hitting up Platt Park. This is a great spot if you guys want to do farmers markets in the summertime. Pearl Street, which is just the main road that goes through Platt Park, has one of the biggest in all of Denver. Also has some of my favorite sushi restaurants in the entire state. So definitely check out that Platt Park area, which is very, very close to Wellshire, and it's also really close to Wash Park. One last little tidbit that I'll share with you guys before moving on to the next neighborhood. If you also are a real estate investor, or maybe you're just trying to learn a little bit more about all that entails, like what is real estate investing? How do you even get started? Well, for one, shoot me a message. I would love to share some additional resources that I personally have that I can give you guys for free, just to kind of help educate you a little bit on this. But what I also wanted to tell you about is another great website to check out, and this one is called rentometer.com. What's so cool about Rentometer is you can totally use it for free up to, I think it's 5 or 7 uses. You can also just log in from different computers or just different accounts just to kind of keep that freebie going without having to pay for it. But what's so cool about rentometer.com is you can just type in any subject property's address, choose a specific area that you want to have surrounding it. For example, maybe a 1 mile radius. Put in a few other, just very broad filters like the bed and bath, the year the home was built, just some of that kind of stuff. And then just click a button and it'll show you not only a range of what actual rents are getting for places in that surrounding area, but it'll also give you some other market data just for that specific area, and just give you a lot of legitimate data that you can then use to really figure out what you might be able to rent that property for if you were to purchase it. There used to be a lot of different, kind of like napkin math that people could do to really identify whether or not an investment property was a good purchase. Back in the day, it was called the 1% rule. And this does still apply to a lot of the United States. However, with Colorado and Denver specifically, just the cost of real estate has gone up so much that it's very hard to make the true 1% work when you're doing the numbers. But what the 1% rule is basically this. You want to be able to get in a monthly rent amount. That monthly rent amount needs to be equivalent to about 1% of what you're paying for the property. So just as an example, if you were to buy a $500,000 rental property, you need to be getting about $5,000 a month in rent to make that 1% rule. There's a lot of other factors that go into real estate values and just how to make money with real estate. There's things like value add, forced appreciation. There's a lot of different strategies, but the big one that I just wanted to make a point here is that 1% rule a lot of times doesn't work out in Denver, but you can still make a strong investment with a rental property here by just taking advantage of understanding tools such as, again, this rentometer.com, and just trying to figure out what really true dollar amount you can get in a monthly rate for a property. So check that out, and for sure, let me know if you guys like it, and if you have any other questions on how to use it, feel free to reach out.